Well, we are back from the winter break in today's episode of Rookie to Rookie, still sitting inside of a Champions League qualifying spot. The Asian Cup is on, so we've done a little bit of transfer business to cover for that, and also we'll take on Eintracht, Frankfurt and Bayern. But first, we've had a job interview offer. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 69 of Rookie to Rookie here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up today. We're going to play the two games in January and February against Eintracht Frankfurt at home and Bayern Munich away. Eintracht Frankfurt sitting in fourth just behind us on the Bundesliga table, and then Bayern Munich, who of course are a pretty clear leader at the moment, even off the back of our great run of form there in November and December. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, as well as a bit of transfer business seeing as the Asian Cup is taking place. But first thing first, you'll see it there. One of the two games I've played off camera, a 4-0 win over Tromsø as expected off the back of that 4-2 win we picked up against Atalanta in yesterday's episode, as well as the 3-2 against Cologne. If you missed that one, which also included an interview with Aston Villa, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Hopefully today the video won't get screwed up in terms of an error, because that's what's happened. That's the reason that one was so choppy looking. It got an error file and I had to try and repair it. So hopefully that won't happen today, because it looked a little bit crappy, but hopefully we won't have that issue. But apologies for the state of yesterday's episode, at least the first part of it, because it was pretty average in terms of how it looked in the match engine, but I couldn't fix it seeing as I'd already played those games and I didn't really have much of a choice. So apologies for the state of yesterday's episode. But as I said, that 4-0 win over Tromsø we have picked up since then. We already knew though we were going straight through to the round of 16. But the reason that we're actually coming back before the Stuttgart game is to show you guys that we did get a job interview offer, and of all teams, it was from Stuttgart. I'm pretty sure for the second time now in the saver there after us while we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. But this season, they sit down in 14th in a terrible run of form, predicted to finish 11th, and with no European football. So honestly, this was a pretty easy decision. We declined the interview. So a quick update there on the job market. That's the only thing that has happened though off the back of yesterday's episode. In terms of that, no big clubs coming after us, like Napoli, like we were hoping for. So we'll skip forward and actually show you guys the result from that Stuttgart game while they were actually looking for a new manager. Rene Müller coming back from the break here on absolute fire. Got off to a nice start here in this game, just past the 10-minute mark, bumps that one into the top right corner past Vutzov, and then only a few minutes later he helped us make it 2-0. Haasman there picks out Dorn out to Fernandez, squares it, and Müller at the far post just enough there to put that one away and make it 2-0 at the half-hour mark. They did grab a goal back here, did Stuttgart, even without a manager. A ball over the top here. Somehow they head that one forward. We don't mark Martinez, and they put that one away, but thankfully put this one to bed just past the hour mark ourselves. A corner, didn't do anything initially from it, but Walden got the ball there down our right hand side and put it away. So we pick up there a 3-1 win, which is quite nice seeing as we turn them down for a job interview, even though that one was away from home. So the state of the Bundesliga going into today's episode, we've actually made our way up a spot into second, above Borussia Dortmund by 8 points. They're a fair way behind Bayern, albeit they've played one extra game. They sit 8 points clear, but we're looking pretty good for some European football in some form next season. Hopefully, might be an upgrade on the Conference League we've been in this year, because we sit in second. So pretty good here at the halfway point of the Bundesliga season. Let's see if we can keep it up here in the second half off the back of the transfer moves that we have made. We're still about 10 million spare in our transfer budget, especially off the back of the sales of Onion Lukic, but a few more did go through, with players being a bit upset over their time here that they are getting at Jahn Regensburg. So a quick update on the transfer history. You'll notice there's been some moves taking place once we actually sort this out in terms of the chronological timeline. So we got rid of Onion Lukic. In the end, we did just in this case bring back Lingvard. It just made the most sense seeing as he is already quite happy being a cup goalkeeper. So fingers crossed he can do a job for us, even though his spell at Real Betis was not too flash, only a 6.35 average rating. Also Moritz Buller, he left the club. I'm not too sure actually if that one popped up back there on the transfers that have gone out. It didn't for some reason. Maybe he was in the B team when that one did go through, but Moritz Buller is no longer here. Instead of signing a replacement for him, we've called back up from our B team, Sandro Veloso, down here, still a handy player, albeit these days with not a lot of potential. So it looks like now we should be sticking with a one-striker system with no deep line for the 4-3-3, and the 4-2-3-1 have been working very well ever since we made a couple of changes and also turned off being more disciplined. That does seem to have helped us over the course of the last couple of months. But a few more transfers did go through And as well as that, the Asian Cup started, and we're missing a couple of players in our squad at the moment. You'll see it down here. Justin Hubner is away with Indonesia, and Joshua Rawlins away with Australia. Hopefully Hubner might come back relatively soon, but Rawlins, being with Australia, could be at that tournament for quite a while, so it does mean that we're a little bit light in both centre-back as well as at right-back, especially because Christo Curvo has picked up an injury, out for 3 to 9 days with a pulled thigh, and before then was suspended for that Stuttgart game. So I did think we actually needed someone who could cover right-back and or centre-back. So what we did in the transfer market is bought in Edgar Vargas from Club Necaxa, 3.5 million for him, a Costa Rican with a fair bit of potential. Current ability-wise, he's not quite there. Definitely more of a centre-back than a right-back, I'd say, with those attributes he does have. He's a big physical boy, but he'll do a job for us, giving us some extra squad depth while that Asian Cup is taking place. That signing was pretty much just with the Asian Cup in mind, but he could be quite handy if we do decide to let go of someone like Justin Hubner, not homegrown and not with a ton of potential these days. But then some other stuff happened over on the right-hand side, in particular Johann Berkweer wanted a new contract and got quite annoyed when we wouldn't give him an important player these days, obviously, with the addition of Fabian Fernandes. So Johann Berkweer will be sold to Sunderland for a fee of £11 million, rising to £13.25 million. Obviously, was a big player for us here last season and our first one in the Bundesliga, but Fernandes, certainly an upgrade. So yeah, to try and keep the squad happy, he was bringing it down big time, our dynamics, wanting to be an important player but only being a squad one. He's now gone to Sunderland. Those guys are over, I believe, in the Premier League. In fact, no, they're in the mid-table there of the Championship. But Berkweer these days is over at the Black Cats. So that's quite a big sell for us. I think our biggest one so far here at Jahn Regensburg, the third place getter on last year's Next Gen list. But yeah, we decided to let him go. His potential actually wasn't even that high these days, despite that Next Gen ranking he did have last season. We did bring in a replacement for him. Facundo Alanis comes in from Boca Juniors for $6.75 million. Now, in terms of current ability attribute-wise, it's not quite there as much as it was with Berkweer, but does have quite a bit of potential, albeit currently is actually away at the Copa America under-20s or under-21s with the Argentina under-20s. So it does mean that he's currently not actually able to be used. A similar situation there to our players who are at the Asian Cup. But of course, Max Meyer can do a job as that backup left winger. So Alanis, we did bring in to replace Berkweer, but so far haven't been able to use him with that under-20 Copa America that is going on. But off the back of that Berkweer sale, we did still have a fair bit of money that was left over from the 11 million that we did get in. Luis Jorquera from Universidad Católica over in Chile for a £2.9 million release clause. Looked ridiculous value in central midfield. Haasman hadn't been too bad so far this season, I felt like, but this guy looked like a massive upgrade, even though some of those attributes were actually hidden. When I spotted him, still looked a bit better than Haasman. We took the punt on him for that fee, and thankfully, he looks ridiculously good. So Luis Jorquera bought there for a very cheap fee. That value now, that might be an absolute steal. We've got there out of Chile. He'll come straight in as our new first choice central midfielder. So a couple of players there that was signed to replace and also give us some extra squad depth while the Asian Cup is going on. But Jorquera, that could be a very useful signing in central midfields. That's what we've done during the course of the winter break transfer-wise. You'll see our transfer budget still actually not too bad, 3.92 million spare there. So yeah, we've still got a little bit of money if we want to spend it going closer to deadline day, but not too sure we need to. Our squad these days, it does look quite good, even with a few players away still on international duty. You'll see there Haasman gets dropped out of the team entirely, Adama Kamara onto the bench, and Luis Jorquera goes straight and hopefully make a good debut here at Eintracht Frankfurt. But apart from that, it's a pretty similar team to what we had as our penciled in best 11 before that winter break. A couple of players were in there, of course, with their form in the Conference League, but these days, that's not quite so relevant off the back of that winter break, and thankfully we continue to be in some good form. So fingers crossed here it continues when we take on Eintracht Frankfurt. This one at home, they sit not too far behind us, just 2 points in fourth. So quite a big game for us here as we look to hold on to one of those Champions League qualifying spots. Their recent form has been decent. A 3-1 win off the back of the winter break that was against Gladbach, and before it there was a draw against Dortmund away. That's quite a good result. A win over Hoffenheim. They were struggling a little bit in the Champions League, though. A loss there to Shakhtar away. That's not too good, but Eintracht Frankfurt are quite a good team in this save at home. Hopefully can find a way here to pick up a result. In terms of the tactic that we're going for this game, we're going to stick with our 4-2-3-1. Apparently, it's the tactic that is creating the most chances against what they're going with. So let's hope here we can pick up a decent result. Edgar Vargas is on the bench, obviously, with no Rawlins, who's at the Asian Cup, and also Butera, our backup centre-back. With Hubner away, Cuervo injured, that does mean that Pavicic comes in on that left-hand side of defence to replace Hubner in the first team. And Henning, we've got in there over Dornats, actually, because his form of late has been just a little bit better, still off the back of that winter break. But apart from that, it's our first choice 11 that we've got here these days. Unfortunately, Max Meyer is on the bench, seeing as Alanis is still away at that Copa America Youth Tournament. So fingers crossed there can pick up a result. Hoffenheim, they take on Leipzig. That game quite relevant because Leipzig in the same position that Eintracht Frankfurt are, and also Borussia Dortmund versus Bayer Leverkusen. Actually probably wanting Dortmund to pick up a win there, just keep ourselves firmly inside of that top 5 at the very least, but we'll see. There is a will be a Leverkusen taking points off Dortmund. It could be quite useful in Cologne, another team that maybe we need to keep an eye on as they take on Schalke. So a couple of big games that are going on this match day, but hopefully can pick up a result here against an Eintracht Frankfurt team that we haven't been able to beat so far in our time here at Jahn Regensburg. Just 2 draws and 1 loss. To be fair, it's not a team that we've been too bad against, but we definitely have been struggling to beat them. So fingers crossed here off the back of our good run of form before that winter break, as well as that good result we did just pick up there against Stuttgart off the back of it, and of course that job interview offer which we turned down pretty quickly because Stuttgart are quite rubbish. I'm not too sure last year if we attended that interview. I think it was last year around that same time that Leverkusen and Wolfsburg came after us. Stuttgart, I think, also were looking at us then, but they're just not big enough. We had an interview with the media off the back of turning down that job interview, and I said something like we're bigger than that. So that should certainly have got their knickers in a twist, and thankfully we did pick up the win. But yeah, we'll see how that does hold up the next time that a club does come after us in the save. But certainly compared to last season, some of these job interview offers coming through a little bit later than they were when we got that trio last season from the fellow Bundesliga clubs. We'll see if that continues off the back of the windbreaker. If that Stuttgart one might have been the last one, to be fair, seeing as how well we're doing in Europe these days, it might not be that bad. Just sticking here with Jahn Regensburg for the remainder of the season. But very interested to see how Louis Hawkera does get on there in central midfield. I'm very happy with how he does look. As I said, a couple of his attributes were actually not quite fully revealed when we did sign him for 2.9 million, but that price just looked way too good for what he could end up being. Indeed, it was an early corner there where he can't quite hit the target. But now Hawkera, from a free kick, I think it was 14, we'll try and put this one top left corner. La Hawkera will put that one away. What a debut from him already. He's put it top left corner. So Louis Hawkera could be a little bit of a legend for us here based on this in the second part of the season. That is a wonderful free kick. Maybe we've finally got a decent free kick taker for that 2.9 million. That's a way to introduce yourselves to the Jahn Regensburg faithful at home. So we take a 1-0 lead here against Eintracht Frankfurt so far. Couple of set piece chances. Missed the first one there through a Ruslan header. But Louis Hawkera, that is a wonderful free kick. So fingers crossed that's something we can make the most of in the second part of the season already. Quite liking the look of him, even off the back of that lone free kick. Now, Ruslan again from a set piece. That one must have got saved because they're showing us there the goal line technology. Initially, I thought that one might have come off the woodwork, but that is a pretty decent first half. A couple of chances from set piece. Hawkera puts away the free kick. Ruslan can't quite score with his 2-headed chances. So far, I'm pretty happy with how we're looking in this game. We'll tell the guys that, and hopefully it continues early here in the second half. But so far, we're looking decent. Would be quite nice if we grabbed a cushion goal there through one of those corners. But pretty happy considering we're only doing stuff here from set pieces. Now, Louis Walden goes down to a 6.4, and it hasn't improved at the hour mark. So Nurlazar, who was starting over him before that winter break, will bring on there at right wing maybe. That needs to be made a bit more permanent. Tribute-wise, Lazar should be a better player. But Walden has been very good for us so far in this save. But on the attack again here in this first highlight in the second half off the back of that sub that we have just made. Ruslan plays that one back forward. Dida Lopez starts to go for, but that pass not quite on the money. So Eintracht Frankfurt here will get a chance, but that back pass is an absolute shocker. But Rene Muller has missed it. Drops down to a 6.3. I think that's an offence that we can sub him off for. So Levente Toff will come on up front because that really should have been 2-0, big chance there, and we don't take it, albeit now another one for us here from set piece. Ruslan again gets his head on the end of that one, and again, the woodwork comes to the rescue of Eintracht Frankfurt. So we've gone very close now from free corners, just not quite grabbed that second goal to go alongside the Hawkera free kick. But now, with just over 15 minutes left, might be time for us here to take off these players only on 6.5. Solarosa can come on in ball winning midfield. Kamara will come on for Lucchini. We've got one more sub that we could save up, albeit it's our last stoppage, so we may as well make it. I suppose Max Meyer at left wing is the one that we should do here, with Fernandez being on a 6.5. So Max Meyer here can get some game time while our new signing and Alanis is away at that Copa America under 20 or whatever it was. But about to make our way into the final 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And oh dear, maybe we should have held off on those subs because Alex Jimenez has picked up an injury now. That is a big problem with the Asian Cup. We might be quite light now on right backs. Now LaRosa can do a bit of a job at right back. What we might do here is pull Kamara back to that ball winning role and just put him as a centre mid on support alongside Hawkera, and he can be on attack. In fact, maybe that should be the other way around, seeing as Kamara is the more advanced playmaker usually. In fact, 2 centre mids on support, probably not too bad an idea while we are down to 10 men. But with only a 1-goal lead, we'll time waste here a little bit earlier than we usually would. Not too much earlier, but still, this could be a bit of a turning point, that injury to Alex Jimenez. So fingers crossed that it's not too serious, obviously, with the Asian Cup going on, or Australia might get knocked out surprisingly early. That could be helpful, but thankfully, made our way through the first 5 minutes there of the last 10. So now it's time for us here to pull our wingbacks onto fullbacks on support. I think apart from that, though, all we want to do is time waste a bit more and drop our tempo, and that should hopefully do the job. So far, Eintracht Frankfurt not up to too much in this game. In fact, a corner now. We look for Ruslan again. This time can't win the ball, but Lazar gets us back on it. Henning squares that one nicely. That was for Meyer. His shot gets deflected. We'll see if this highlight continues off the back of those changes we've made. Indeed, it does. So thankfully, putting pressure here on Eintracht Frankfurt for the second goal, despite the fact we are only down to 10 men. Lazar thankfully taking his time here on this one. Like with us, he goes near post again. Can't quite pick out Ruslan, and that highlight does come to an end. Usually Ruslan, quite reliable from set pieces. We make our way into 5 minutes of added time. So the Eintracht Frankfurt have had time here with a man advantage that they shouldn't have gotten, but we hold on for our first win over these guys so far in the save. 1-0. We were pretty dominant, but in the end, it was our set pieces that made the difference. Ruslan really should have made it 2-0 at some stage, but Louis Hawkera on debut with a wonderful free kick there in the first half to give us a 1-0 win. So La Hawkera comes up there with a bit of magic to give us a 1-0 win in his debut. That's a big win as well, with Eintracht Frankfurt sitting in 4th on that Bundesliga table. So we'll just wait here and make our way through the post-match interview. But obviously, that will mean we hold on to 2nd spot there in the Bundesliga and keep ourselves, I think now, 2 months without a loss in the saves. We're going very well, not even a draw in the last 2 months. We've been flying here with the Jahn Regensburg team. Hopefully that'll continue when I take on Augsburg in the derby off camera, and then we come back off the back of deadline day if we do any business for a top-of-the-table clash against Bayern Munich. And maybe I shouldn't have talked about that winning run that we were on, because unfortunately here in this derby away at Augsburg, you would have seen it there. Owusu-Adolu lets that one come off the woodwork. A simple tap-in for Augsburg to make it 1-0 there in the first half. Thankfully, Muller back in goal-scoring form. Nice finish that one for some help off the inside of the post just before half-time. 1-1 draw. Owusu-Adolu so far been pretty good for us here at Jahn Regensburg this season, but that time, feel like it's fair to say he might have cost us a bit more out of that game. But a draw away in the derby, it's not too bad. You'll see that the average rating, he's conceded a few, but been pretty good as well with 8 clean sheets. So to be fair, I think that fee we paid for him is not too bad. Tottenham and then making a loss on him when they signed him from RZ back in 2025-26. But unfortunately there, Owusu-Adolu with that slight howler there at the near post does mean that we drop points 1 also. It does mean that we do sit now in 3rd. Eintracht Frankfurt have gone above us, albeit they have already played on this match day and picked up a 3-0 win. RB Leipzig have joined us on points. So 3 teams behind Bayern here, all joint on 38 points. Obviously, not really expecting much on this match day. Bayern Munich away, so to be fair, as long as we don't get fresh too much here, it would be quite nice to hold on to that third spot. And thankfully, Borussia Dortmund are starting to slip up quite a bit now. They've dropped down to 5th off the back of a 1-0 loss to Hoffenheim, so that's quite good. But already a decent gap between FC Cologne and Augsburg, so I'm thinking that we should definitely, at the very worst, have some Conference League football here next season, depending, of course, on what we do in that competition. But unfortunately, those drop points at Augsburg do mean that we did slip down to 3rd. But next up, we've got Bayern Munich, top of the table, and by a big margin. So it's fair to say these guys have certainly bounced back from whatever was going on there last season, when Dortmund absolutely rinsed them by about 15 points to that Bundesliga title. Recent form, obviously pretty good. They've picked up a couple of wins there in the Champions League and beaten Freiburg. A random loss there to RB Leipzig, but before then, they did beat Dortmund, so they've been in pretty good form here. Have this Bayern team a big gap on top of that Bundesliga table. Let's hope that maybe we can find a way here to take some points off them. Of course, one win that we picked up against them at home in the Bundesliga last season when Kim Min-jae, their vice captain, picked up a red card, but around that, they've had the wood over us. Let's hope here that we can pick up a result. Unfortunately, it will be about Alex Jimenez, a twisted ankle in that previous game. He got forced from the field, of course, and he's out for a further 5 to 11 days. So unfortunately, it does mean currently that we're quite weak at right back. Edgar Vargas comes in there, the player that we did sign, while Rawlins and Humna were away at the Asian Cups. So in the end, that signing's going to work out quite nicely. Let's see what he can do here. A little bit out of position, as I said, definitely think he's more of a centre back, but we'll see what he can do here as a right back, despite the fact that crossing and dribbling is not too hot. But let's hope he can do a decent job here, while Jimenez as well as Rawlins are unavailable. Felix Strel comes up from our under-19s. He looks okay, but definitely quite weak there currently at right back, and also a couple of players trying a heavy workload, which does mean that Sandro Veloso and Naba Mensah come on the bench instead of players like La Rosa as well as Levente Toff. So a few changes mainly on the bench for this game, but to be fair, in terms of our starting 11, it's pretty similar to what we put out for that first game. And also, we do have the 4-3-3 for this one. I'll show you guys the screen I'm using to actually decide what tactic that we go here currently in between the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1. You'll see it there. There's all the formations. I just click on the most clear-cut chances. To be fair for this game, it was pretty even between the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1, but minute-wise, the 4-3-3 just looked a little bit better. So we'll see here how this 4-3-3 does get on against Bayern Munich away from home. To be fair, if things do start to go wrong, we'll probably just switch to that 4-2-3-1. Our players are doing the exact same roles, just in slightly different positions. So as I said before, just one change there at right back and also a couple of changes there on our bench. So hopefully won't be too bad. Dawn comes back in at left back there over Henning. He's not been too bad recently, so let's hope he can come back in here to our first team and do a good job at left back. To be fair, both of those guys have been quite good for us so far this season, but fingers crossed he can find a way to maybe just get a draw at Bayern. That would actually be quite a good result and see us jump back up to second on that Bundesliga table and make sure the gap to first isn't too big, albeit I don't think we're truly in a title race this season. That result against Augsburg definitely has stunted our momentum just a little bit, and especially with Bayern Munich now, that might be a little bit of a road bump for us here for the first time in a while. But let's hope here we can somehow find a way to pick up a result, another free kick or something to Hawkera, and he'd be off to a brilliant start here at Jahn Regensburg. Very happy with that 2.9 million after only 2 games that he's played. That free kick that you did see against Eintracht Frankfurt, I think that will be up there in terms of our goal of the season, because it was an absolute screamer. And actually, it is a highlight here from the kickoff. It is actually Bayern Munich, of course, at home, so they're in the red and the white, but thankfully actually win that ball there down our left-hand side, albeit I say that, and a bit loose on it, so it does mean that Bayern do get back on the ball. The best team in Germany this season, so we'll see how we get on this time. The first time we played them this season, we kind of bowled it late, and there was a bit of Bayern BS that did happen. Fingers crossed this time it doesn't, but at home, the chances, they are pretty high. But so far here in this highlight, they're keeping the ball relatively well since we gave it away. Gakpo there, they somehow flicked that one on there to Ferguson. Our defence does absolutely nothing. Cuervo comes back in, and that was pretty poor, and they make it 1-0. Let's just see here what happened, because it might have even been a back pass there from Cuervo that did go wrong. Indeed it is. Not too sure what Cuervo's doing there with that header back, potentially looking for a Wusu Adolo, but Evan Ferguson's right there, mate. That's an absolute shocker, and we go 1-0 down. So already there a little bit of Bayern BS that does go their way. Cuervo comes back into the team from his injury and suspension, and gives away a goal. And Ruslan tries to make up for it there, and that is a big save from the Bayern goalkeeper. Did think that one just came off the woodwork, but actually that's a good chance there that we don't quite take. Now Fernandes tries to put that one top left corner, his shot. It does get blocked. We keep the ball, but Lucchini, he was offside, and Bayern hold on to their 1-0 lead. But to be fair, stats-wise, actually, we're looking quite decent early stages of this game. Just gave it that big chance there through Cuervo, and they made the most of it. Musiala there with a free kick. Thankfully, that one goes the wrong side of the woodwork. So decent chances now for both teams. Unfortunately, Bayern, they are taking theirs, but actually looking quite decent here when we do have the ball in this game. Fernandes picks out Walden, and Vargas here starts to make his way forward. Nice pullback there for Lewis Walden, who puts it top left corner, and thankfully, it's back all square just shy of halfway through this first half. So we make it 1-0, which I feel like is the least we deserve off the back of the screwaway that Bayern, they did score the goal. Vargas picks up an assist despite the fact that really that right back position, not too sure how useful he will be there, but thankfully can do a job while we've got players out injured and at the Asian Cup in Rawlins, and he helps us there make it 1-0, which I think we deserve stats wise. Let's hope now that maybe we can hold on to it, albeit Ruslan picks up a yellow card, so maybe you have to make a sub there at centre back at half time. Might even be something like Sturl coming on, and we might chuck the Vargas back to centre back, something of a bit more of a natural position. A massive chance there for Muller. He was onside too. He puts it wide to Rene Muller. Not going too well in today's episode. Now Lucchini, he picks up a yellow card. We'll also get him to ease off tackles. Quite a few players out there struggling rating wise and on yellow cards. There might be quite a few subs here at half time, despite the fact we're looking half decent. Musiala again with a free kick. To be fair, that one doesn't force Owusu Adolu into a save, and it does go wide. But stats-wise, we're looking pretty good value here for this 1-0 scoreline at half time. But you'll see it out there. There's a couple of players on 6.4s and 6.3s, and 2 other players on yellow cards. So I dare say here, actually, we might use all 5 subs at half time. What we might do is put Vargas there in the Ruslan position and bring on Sturl for Ruslan. It will be Pavicic who comes on for Cuervo and Henning for Dawn. Unfortunately, Dawn not doing too well today. Kamara for Lucchini. Kamara's been quite good for us recently, and we'll put Veloso up top. Or what we could also do is Nur Lazar and chuck Lewis Walden up top, which might not be the worst idea, seeing as Nur Lazar is in such good recent forms. All 5 subs they used at halftime. We'll just make sure that Kamara is easing off tackles going into the second half. But let's hope that that doesn't backfire, and we just improve enough here to pick up 3 points, or at least hold on and pick up 1, because the first half, that was very encouraging. So let's hope that continues. Oh dear.
Yeah.
What an idiot I am. We used all our subs up, and Kamara has come off the bench in the space of 3 minutes. He's got injured. We're down to 10 men for about 40 minutes of this game against Bayern Munich, the top team away from home. So what we're going to do here is be forced to play without an advanced playmaker for the last 40 minutes of this game. But that is more Bayern BS. We honestly cop it all the time when we play these guys. I know they're the best team in Germany, but yeah, it feels like a lot of bad luck when we take on Bayern here in the save at the moment. That obviously does go on me a little bit as well, making all those subs there at halftime. But a few players on yellow cards who could have picked up reds, and also some players who were sucking. And yeah, thankfully, I thought that wasn't given as a penalty. It has been. There's all sorts of Bayern BS going on in this game. Henning apparently has given that away, despite the fact it looked like quite a clean challenge. Let's hope here that VAR might help us out and make sure this does stay at 1, or we do wait for the VAR decision. And thankfully, we love VAR. They correctly overturned that penalty, because Henning, it did look like a pretty nice tackle, that one. So thankfully, it's still 1, or we hold on here with our 10 men so far for a good 20 minutes. Let's hope here that continues, and soon enough, we might already start to look to time waste. Just thinking here that Bayern will probably come out late, especially with no subs we can use. We can't freshen things up out there when players do drop down to red hearts. Don't think yet we'll go to fullbacks on support. What we might do though is put Hawkera a bit more central, because that just looks weird when he's not, now that we are down to 10 men. But you'll see there Fernandes dropping down already to a red heart. If we get into the last 10 minutes, we can time waste even more. But unfortunately, Bayern eventually get a highlight here in the second half that isn't a bogus penalty. Let's see if they can do something while we are down to 10 men. To be pretty proud of how we're going in this game. Let's just hope we can hold on. They float that one far post there, and Alphonso Davies will head that one home past Owusu Adolu at the near post. Sturl, I think, there has just decided not to jump, which to be fair is a bit of an issue on FM24 with wingbacks and fullbacks. To be fair, all the right backs and left backs in this game seem allergic to jumping at the moment, but Strel just lets Davies have his way out there, and unfortunately off the back of that ball from Olise, they make it 2-1. So off the back of that, we will actually go a bit more attacking late on here in this game, no time wasting, because there's no point. We'll even play here with a bit of a 4-1-3-1, just see if that might do something. Go full out attack, because we really don't have much to lose, down to 10 men. Off the back of that goal there scored by Alphonso Davies. At least it wasn't from that screwy penalty, which did get overturned. We'll turn off all our time wasting and even go higher tempo late on in this game and just see if we can somehow find a way here to actually grab an equaliser. I feel like stats-wise, it's what we deserved up until Kamara got forced from the field with that injury. That could be a bit of a difference maker here in this game, it feels like, because unfortunately, as we start to make our way into 4 minutes of added time, there's not much going on. Let's just try something wacky, put both our centre-backs onto liberos on support and see if that might do something super high tempo and be more expressive, because why not? But unfortunately, it does feel like here we might be losing to Bayern 2-1. They've now got a corner actually before those next couple of changes. They do go through, and that is an absolute poacher's goal there from Upamecano. A massive deflection from the shot from Semi. He puts it away. Good old Bayern BS. They're getting all the rub of the green here in these games we're playing against them this season, and they make it 3-1. Upamecano, to be fair, defensively, that's pretty average from us, but Semi, I'm not too sure if that one was going in or just going well. We'll go very attacking and just see if we can find a way to make this 3-2, but unfortunately, we suffer a defeat. But the big turning point in that one made all our subs at half-time. Whoopsie daisy, because Kamara got injured after 3 minutes, and we went down to 10 men, so really that one might be on me a little bit. We won't be too harsh on the boys off the back of that, because I dare say that might be a little bit of a manager cause lost that one. Not too sure if we can blame tactics too much, because we did look quite good when it was 11 players versus 11, but unfortunately in both games today there were some injuries off the back of us making our last couple of subs. That time it proves costly. A 3-1 loss at Bayern, so we do stay third on the Bundesliga. So unfortunately another loss for us there against Bayern Munich. They seem to have some superpower of voodoo doll on us at the moment. Just getting all the luck going their way when we take them on. That injury to Kamara was a big game changer. 2 late goals there to pick up a 3-1 win, and unfortunately we've dropped down to 4th because RB Leipzig, they picked up a 2-0 win over Cologne. They go to 41 points. The Klopp's men now, they do sit in second, but we're not that far behind still, and are inside a Champions League qualifying spot, 4 points clear of both Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen's not going too badly. Just a bit annoyed with how we've lost that game to Bayern, and unfortunately the injury is somewhat serious. Adama Kamara out for 2 to 4 weeks. Paired it up with Zeno Schneider, that broken ankle. He's still 3 weeks away. That's actually one of the reasons that Hawkera signing was not the worst idea, and Alex Jimenez is still out for about a week and a half as well. So unfortunately, copped some injuries there during the course of today's episode, and it proved costly in that Bayern Munich game. But up until then, we have been on a really good patch of form ever since that DFB Pokal loss to Wolfsburg at the end of October. Let's hope that we can bounce back, because we'll probably come back tomorrow. We've got Bayer Leverkusen away from home in the Bundesliga, and also Borussia Dortmund away. Those are 2 teams who currently do sit right behind us, so I dare say we'll come back for those 2 games. And off the back of that, we'll be able to see who we've got in the round of 16 in the Conference League. Not too sure yet, because the knockout playoff round actually doesn't get drawn for another couple of days. But the teams who will be getting chosen for that round, let's go down here. It's the teams between 9th and 24th. So there's a couple of big ones there in Atalanta and Sevilla, all the way down in 22nd somehow. But really, anyone else, and we should be fine to be fair. We did beat Atlanta quite comfortably in yesterday's episode anyway, so hopefully we can make our way through quite safely that round of 16. But before then, we do have a couple of big games away from home in the Bundesliga when we take on both Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen tomorrow. But that will do it for today's episode. A couple of transfers there. La Hawkera might be a very good one there for 2.9 million, that winner there when we took on Eintracht Frankfurt before we got kind of screwed there again at Bayern Munich. But if you enjoyed that episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well until tomorrow for that Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund double header. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.